Hi everyone, hope everyone's well. This evening I am playing ASL starter kit. This is scenario S41, Sinks Encouragement. We've got some German Grenadier defences here. I've put the counters in this way just for the sake of the video. And the American 101st Airborne will be entering from the very top of the map, which is actually the east side of the map. Their objective is to capture all the buildings within 2 hexes of this hex here. So these buildings, for example, and these buildings here. I've positioned the German in 3 sort of defensive phases. First being here, second being the middle, and the third being these here. And the Americans are going to have to either circumvent or eliminate these, all of these. We'll certainly eliminate these ones in these hexes here. It's going to be quite a tough job. However, the Americans, there are some special rules. In the prep fire phase of turn 1, there is an artillery strike with 3 strikes. So in the first turn I'll be resolving those, and then we'll be playing as normal. I will be using ASL starter kit rules, modified very slightly just because I'm playing the game solo. The game doesn't have a solitaire bot or anything. You're playing both sides. Not too many turns, 5 turns. This is not the first time I've played this. I've played this scenario a few times now. Be interesting to see with these, and this is why I've modified it a little. I've tried it before with lots of German defences. So as soon as the Americans are coming on the board, they're under heavy fire. But this for this evening, and it is predominantly I'm looking for a rich narrative of the battle. I've done this very deliberate 3 sort of stages to see how that plays out. See if the Americans can work their way through the German defences and take the objective. At the end of the first turn, the Americans have done quite well. They were very lucky with their artillery strike, designed to soften up the German defences. Very lucky with that, those die rolls. And they've been able to move this side of the town, Saint-Côme-de-Mont, which is what they're attacking. They've faced some German resistance, and there's been an exchange of fire between some of the units here, but overall the Americans have done better. They have been able to lay down some attacking fire on these defenders in this hex. They've made good use of their medium machine guns, and have done very well. The Germans have still got some good defences though, and they are starting to regroup. They're moving this unit across here to get towards the objective, and are focusing on around this area here. And the Germans next turn will see Americans are probably going to make good and attack and defeat these units here, and then they'll be able to lay down some fire into these defensive positions, which the Germans will be returning fire. At the end of turn 2, the Americans have got themselves in a good position here. The Germans not giving it up though. They're returning fire, and they've been able to damage and hurt this stack here. Quite a fierce firefight between the Germans and the Americans. The Americans were able to make good on taking their sort of objectives here, but by the rules of the scenario, they have 3 turns, and they've got to remove all these German units. Well, they've got to be removed so they're not in good order anyway. They've got to be able to control all the building hexes by the rules. So they've got a bit of work to do, and there's obviously open ground. As you can see here, the Germans have got some rather fearsome MMG there, with this open ground between them and these objectives. So that was quite an eventful turn. The Americans were able to lay down quite some significant fire, and with some very good die rolling. The Germans are looking at a bit of a sticky wicket. The Germans also suffered a malfunctioning MG42, which is now broken. So they'll try and see if they can repair it. But really now they only have this stack here that's able to really do anything of significance. The Americans are now going to be focusing on clearing this stack out, and they may come and finish off some of these units here as well. And not surprising in that turn, the Americans are making good on their sort of mid-game progress. They're able to eliminate the Germans here. The Germans looking very precarious. These Germans here in this building here took some heavy casualties, and at least, not necessarily specifically in game mechanics terms, but in the narrative of the game. And they're pinned down, they're under heavy fire. They've got an almighty amount of American 101st troops firing on them. We've got some MGs in there as well, as you can imagine, those sort of 30 cals really hammering into that building. So the Germans are heavily at disadvantage, being heavily suppressed, taking some casualties. They do still have a good unit here, even though they've got a broken MG42. And we'll see how that can shake down in the last turn. So in the last turn, the Americans are going to be charging. Basically, we're going to charge across this open ground here and see what can happen. The Americans need to dislodge this last unit out to secure this area and gain victory in terms of the scenario, but certainly in terms of the narrative that's playing out in my mind's eye when I'm playing this. They've got very strict instructions, and they're being pushed really hard to take this piece of the town as quickly and as aggressively as possible. So the game has finished, but in a bizarre twist of fate, the Americans were unable to move across this open ground, and the Germans were able to just to defend it enough and repel them from their would-be advance and stop them. So the Americans ran out of time. In terms of the game terms, ran out of time. They were able to move their troops up into this building here, of this area here, and you can imagine in the next turn they would have been able to have made good. But in terms of the narrative, these Germans valiantly holding on to this last position here, managed, maybe not in the game mechanic terms, but in my imagination, managed to maybe get that MG working just a little bit, just lay down some suppressing fire, just repel the advancing Americans. Americans maybe not quite so sure of this, how many Germans were at the end of the battle, etc. So just not able to quite achieve that objective. Did everything else and did a sterling job in doing so. And there were many moments of bravery on both sides. A lot of intensive fire. So I'm going to call it there on the scenario. In terms of what would I do differently next time, maybe more Germans at the beginning here in defensive positions, although they would be susceptible maybe to the incoming artillery barrage that started the game off. That was quite a nice, unique, don't see that too many times in these ASL start kit scenarios. That was quite interesting, quite enjoyed rolling for that. It was quite decisive. And then in fairness to the Americans, that was really decisive, that incoming barrage. There were units here that were already taking casualties, as it were, being less effective as a result because of that. Without that incoming barrage, or if it had missed, it could have been a very different game. So it's got quite a high replayability, this scenario, I feel. The other thing that's important here as well is this is a small scenario. It's a very small physical space. Quite comfortable being able to play this evening in an hour, and those sort of games have their place, for sure. Really enjoyed it. Always love playing ASL, whether it's the starter kit or full ASL, whatever. So if you've played this scenario, interested in any thoughts, and in the comments, please. And thank you for watching, as always.